Okay, today we are going to be talking about triangle properties for the second day, but this time we get to add x's and y's and z's, so the algebraic, those variables to it. And we're also going to learn about some properties of isosceles and equilateral triangles and how we can use those as well. So, let's get started there. Find the measure of the missing angle. How do I find the measure of angle 2? Raise your hand and tell me how I find the measure of angle 2. Greg?
75 plus 64.
So 75 plus 64 equals the measure of angle 2. Remember, these are remote interior to the exterior angle. And those add to get that angle there, which is 139, you said?
Yes.
What is question marks angle measure? What can I do? What do I need to do first to find question marks angle? Greg, what do I need to find first?
Add up 40 and 20 and then subtract that by 180.
Yeah, so I'm going to call that x for now, just so we know what we're doing. So we know 20 plus 40 plus x equals 180, because triangles add to 180. So 60 plus x equals 180. So that means that that angle measure is 120. Which means that the angle above it is also 120, because what kind of angles are those two? What kind of angles are those two orange angles? They are vertical. Lindsay's favorite angle measurements. So we know that the triangles add to 180, so it would be 39 plus 120 plus question mark equals 180. So it's 21 degrees. Is it that my Grace that's using her notes?
It is.
Oh, Grace, I'm proud of you. Hi, guys. All right. Questions on those? Let's review from yesterday.
Have any of your kids been asking?
What'd you say?
One kid in my social studies class, he was like, "Yeah, Miss Brady told me I couldn't go to watch the cross country runners run." Blaine, I think his name is.
Oh, no, I didn't tell him he couldn't go. He just couldn't come with us in the car. Like he couldn't come on the whole entire state trip.
He was like, "Yeah, she told me I can't go and watch."
That's not even true.
That's what he said.
I think he misheard what I said. That's easy to mishear things.
He was just like, "Yeah, Miss Brady just doesn't want me to go watch them." And I was like, "Oh."
That's not at all what I said. He said, "Can I go with you guys to state?" And I said, "No, you have to qualify to go in, like on the state trip, because we leave today and we stay overnight."
Well, he obviously heard you wrong, because he was like.
Or I misinterpreted what he was saying to me. I think it could have been one way or the other, you know. All right. How can I find x? What can I do? What can I do? Greg.
You add 2x and 3x plus 90.
And that equals what?
180.
Good.
And combine like terms and subtract 90.
I think I'm going to have to tell Greg not to answer any more questions today. He's answering them all.
I know he's on top.
He is on top of it, but I'm afraid to say no to that because you're doing so good, Greg. All right. Let's have give Greg a break for a second. Who can tell me an equation that you can write to find x in number 2? Helena.
X plus 32 plus 2x minus 4.
Yep. Yeah, because you two are BFFs, so you're probably like on the same wavelength by now.
Exactly.
So these are the remote interior. And this is the exterior. The two remote interior adds to be the exterior. Hopefully you guys have not forgotten how to solve. Because I would hope not. You did it a lot over the last couple of years, including in middle school.
I think I can do this. I think I can pass this if I actually keep stuff moving.
What do you have on Monday, guys?
Quiz.
A quiz. I put, if you haven't, has anybody seen, I put like a Google form quiz on the Google Classroom? Do you see that? So you can do that to practice your skills, and it has some feedback, and if you have any questions, you can email me and I'll answer them. Uh-huh.
Not Monday. Can you like move it to Wednesday?
No, we're good.
'Cause
We're
I'm,
doing
like,
Monday.
not trying to come on Monday because
Well, then you'll just take it a different day. I know. It's just a weird, I'm worried about that.
I'm probably not coming.
All right, Gabe, how about number 1 on the next page? What do?
You just add all the sides together,
They're not sides.
well, angles together and add equal to 180.
Okay, the reason why I corrected you and I wasn't trying to be like forceful or anything is because when we start doing angles and sides together later on in the notes, we need to remember that the angle measures add to 180. Do the sides add to 180? Do the sides add to 180? No. They could, but it could be a perimeter of anything, right? Really. The angles will always add to 180, so don't confuse angles with sides. So that's 7x and 7x is 14x. Plus another 5x is 19x. Then I have 8 minus 1, which is 7. Plus 2 is 9. What is 171 divided by 19?
9.
What is it?
9.
9.
This is actually kind of easy. Don't call me.
Rob, did you just say call on you? What do you think you can do for number 2 there?
You'll have to add up all the angles. So you'll do x plus 40, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll do 3x, and then plus 3x plus 10, and then plus 6x.
Is that inside the triangle?
Now, then you have to do it.
Look back to the previous slide. What did we do with the one that had the one that was outside? Huh? It's this one here.
I know, I'm looking at that.
So it equaled what?
I don't know.
The outside angle. The two inside angles equaled the outside angle. So what would it be here?
So it'd be the same as 3x plus 10.
So it would be 3x plus 10. It wouldn't be the same as that. Plus
X plus 40.
equals
180? No, what the heck?
the two inside angles equal
6x?
the outside angle.
That makes no sense.
It does. So here's how it works. We talked about this
Oh.
yesterday. Yeah, you got it? Are you sure?
Light bulb happened.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say, because if this is 20 and this is
Yeah.
60, that's
I-
80. So this is 100.
I understand.
So that would be 80.
Yeah.
Okay, got it?
My brain didn't work for ever. Your mom's names. Got it. I don't know why I'm laughing so hard at that joke. I thought it was really funny.
All right.
You said you're.
So we found the value of each of those variables. Do you guys have questions before you learn a new theorem? Do you guys have questions before you learn a new theorem? All right, so what is the isosceles triangles theorem? It says if two sides of the triangle are congruent, then the base angles are also congruent. So if sides, then angles. We kind of talked about this yesterday, like I brought it up to you guys. I didn't say it directly, but I was kind of starting to talk to you guys about it. So since A, B are congruent, do you see how if you were to draw a line, these are the angles opposite them? the angles opposite those lines are congruent, okay? So we are going to determine in the figure below what angles are congruent. So if VW is the same as WX, what two angles are congruent? To make sure you use 3 letters to name the angles. Morgan, what 2 angles would be congruent if those two are the same? What? Be careful. Look at the triangle that it is. So this is the triangle. You can't go outside of the triangle. Huh? Okay, now use 3 letters. WVX and what's this one? Nope, you have to use the red lines here. And X needs to be the middle one because that's your angle there. WXV is good. Remember that the vertex needs to be in the center. Angle ZVX, which is that one, and ZXV. So we're talking about this triangle here. What do we know then? What do I know if those 2 angles are congruent? Devin, what do I know if those 2 angles are congruent?
Angle XZY.
These are angles, so it's not angles. So if these 2 angles are congruent, we have if angles, then the sides are congruent. So what 2 sides are congruent? Stop for a second. Devin, what 2 sides are congruent? There you go. Guys, okay, so let's take a step back. If sides, then angles. All right? If angles, then sides. Do you see it's read both ways? So if you know 2 sides, then you know that the 2 angles are congruent. If you know 2 angles are congruent, then the 2 sides are congruent. Okay? Everybody understand that now? Okay, so Kylie. If XZ is congruent to XY, XZ is congruent to XY, what do you know? So you're on if sides, then you're finding...
Okay, wouldn't it be then XZY is congruent to XYZ?
Perfect. So XZY is congruent to XYZ. So let me just go back through these here. So these 2 are congruent because of that. And these are congruent because of that. And these are congruent because of that. All right, last one. Angle XYZ, XYZ is congruent to angle ZXY, ZXY. What?
They just posted it, I think. So after this slide,
No.
can I read off who made it?
No, just wait a second, please. What 2 sides are congruent, Abby? If these are my congruent angles, what 2 sides are congruent? Be careful. These 2 are the angles, so think opposite. Which side is opposite this one? XZ. And what is opposite of this one? There you go. So look at this and see what questions you have. All this is saying, this is harder because there's like a ton of triangles going on here. Like, if I just gave you this triangle here and I told you that these were congruent, could you tell me that these angles are congruent? Or if I gave you this triangle here and I told you that these angles are congruent, couldn't you tell me that these sides are congruent? It's a little bit easier when it's not like triangles on top of triangles on top of triangles. So I know that's what makes it a little bit harder. So sometimes what you have to do, if that's the case, is redraw the triangles. Like, literally, do you see how I traced the red one? You could have literally redrawn that and then figured it out from there. Does that make sense? Some of you are going to have to do more work than others. You can look at it. You don't have to read it off,
No,
though.
never mind. It's
Okay. All right. So, what would I do here? Who can tell me what I would do based on what I just found out? What could I do based on what I just found out? We know if angles, then what? What two sides are congruent? Okay, so if two things are congruent, we know that they are equal. So we can say 2x plus 6 equals 3x minus 6. Okay, the next one's a little bit more challenging. We know if sides, then, so then these two angles are congruent, but we don't have an angle measure there. What would that angle measure be? What is it? Why is that 3x plus 8? If sides, then angles, right? We're saying these two angles are congruent. They are the same. So if this is 3x plus 8, then this is 3x plus 8. Now do you know what you can do from here? Now what would I do from here, Iku? You can't set them all equal to each other. You don't want to do that. Because if you set 3x plus 8 equal to 3x plus 8, it's just going to cancel out. We have a triangle.
So you would do 3x plus 8 plus 3x plus 8 plus 2x plus 20 equals 1.
Good. So that's 6x, 8x. 8 and 8 is 16. Plus 20 is 36. Come see me if you need me, Lindsay. Please. Just come see me. We'll work on stuff together. Is that 144? Okay, questions so far? We still have lots of examples, so questions so far? So we have some equilateral triangle things. A triangle is equilateral if it's equal angular, which means that if all three of the angles are congruent, all three of the sides are congruent. Equal angular means equal angles. All angles are the same. So each angle of an equilateral triangle is 60 degrees because 180 divided by 3 is 60. So what is the length of ST? If we know all three angles are congruent, we know all three sides are also what?
Did I say it?
What? They're all 5, right? Because they're all
I
congruent.
did say it.
I didn't hear you, so that's why I said what?
No, I didn't want to be wrong, so I stopped.
You don't. I don't care if you're wrong. The point of this is to learn. The point of this is to learn. If all the sides are congruent, then all of the angles are. All right, questions on that before we go on to more examples here? Okay, so find the value of the variable. We know all the sides are congruent, so what do you know about all the angles? They're all congruent, which makes them all. So each one is 60. So somebody raise their hand and tell me what we could do to find x if we know all the angles are 60. Katie.
So 6x equals 60.
6x is the same as a 60-degree angle, right? It's in a 60-degree angle spot. They are the same. So we can set them equal. When two things are the same, you set them equal. So we get x equals 10. KLM. So that's congruent to this, which is congruent to that, because it's an equilateral triangle, right? They're all congruent, which means that this angle is 60, and this angle is 60, and that total angle up here is also 60, right? So what is the angle measure? If this is 60 and this is 90, what would the angle measure of this one be? Ian? 30, because the triangle adds 2. So what can you do with the 30 and the 3x if they're in the same spot?
Well, I don't know. I didn't
If they're in the same spot, so 3x and 30 are in the same spot, what's the thing that means the same in math? What word means same in math? What?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't think today, Miss Brady.
Same. Besides something that's like congruent.
Is it a word that I should just know?
Yes, it is.
Is it equal? I don't
Yes,
know.
it is. What did you just say?
Equal?
It's equal.
Okay,
So what
I
can
was
we do
like,
with
I don't
3x
wanna
and
say
30 if they're in the
something
same
stupid.
spot?
What?
If they're 3x and 30 in the same spot, you said they're equal, so what can you do with those two things? Set them.
Just put it. I don't care at this point anymore.
3x is what to 30?
Equal
Thank
to
you.
30. Okay. Jeez, you make my brain hurt today.
I make it hurt all the time when I call on you, so let's be honest.
Literally, no, math just makes my head hurt.
I know.
If I was in English, this would be easy.
All right. We know if sides, then, if angles, then sides, right? If angles, then sides. So if this one is congruent to this one is congruent to this, aren't these two also congruent? Do you see that? Based on the if sides, then angles. So these angles, they're also 60, not that that matters for us for here. But these angles mean these two sides are congruent, right? These angles mean these two sides are congruent, which forces those two sides to be congruent. So if two things are congruent, Casey, what can you do with them? Good. So we can say 2x plus 5 equals 3x minus 13. Okay, questions there before we get, I think, to the last two slides? I don't think there's anything else on the back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't get how. So since this is congruent to this, then it's also congruent to
Right,
that.
so you know that these two are congruent because of the base angles. Do you see that?
Yeah.
But you also know that these two sides are congruent because of the base angles.
Okay.
So since this one has one dash and it has to be congruent to that one, it also has one dash.
Okay, so that
which
means-
then makes those two congruent.
Okay.
It's kind of like a transitive property. If we were going to do a proof, we would say like that is congruent to that and this is congruent to this, and then you can hook the end two together.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
I kind of feel it.
Determine the value of each variable in each side of the given triangle. So ABC is an isosceles triangle with vertex angle A. So the vertex angle is the angle where the two congruent sides meet. So when you're going to draw a triangle ABC with vertex angle A, and it's where the two congruent sides meet. So the two congruent sides meet at the vertex angles. You see how this is my congruent, this is my congruent, and that's where it meets. And has side lengths of AB is 2x plus 3. AC is 3x minus 4. And BC is x plus 2. We need to find x and all of the side lengths. What do I need to do first to find, we need to find x first. What do I need to do to find x? Please listen to me. Are these angles? Are these angles? So do they add to 180? No. So please do not add them all up and set it equal to 180, because kids will do that, because that's what you get used to, right? When you see three things, you want to add them and equal to 180. These aren't angles, so be very careful. So what do I actually have to do? What do I actually have to do? What do I know? Austin, what do I know? What can I do? 2x plus 3 and 3x minus 4 have the same marking, which makes them congruent. And if two things are congruent, they are equal.
Sorry, that was really messed up how I said that.
That's okay.
I was like, I just got angry.
You're also like super nervous because you want to know what happened with the callback. So,
Yeah, I don't even want to do this. Just
I mean, you're not focusing at all because of that. At least I have some focus most times, but today is like even rougher than normal because of that. So, AB is 2x plus 3. How can I find the length of AB if it's 2x plus 3? How can I find that length if it's 2x plus 3, Cameron? I know AB is 2x plus 3. How can I find its actual length now? How can I find the length of AB if it is 2x plus 3?
3x minus 4 plus x plus 2 equals 0. You get x, and then
What have you been doing this whole hour? Put your phone, like, what are you doing? Put your phone away.
I do my algebra 2 homework.
You shouldn't be doing other stuff, okay, please? You don't know what's going on. These two are congruent. We already set them equal to each other. Okay? So if they're equal, we got x equal to 7. So how, there you go. Please be doing stuff for my class in my class. So AB equals 17. Okay. AC equals 3x minus 4. Logan, how can I find the length of AC then? And then BC equals x plus 2. So Lindsay, what would I do there? Which is?
7.
So BC is 9. Okay. Look at the next one. Triangle JMN is isosceles. So JMN with JM congruent to NM and has side lengths JN is x minus 2. JM is 2x minus 5. And MN is 3x minus 9. So if you notice, as I'm reading it, I'm drawing the picture. Do you guys see that? As I'm reading it, I'm drawing the picture. Do you guys all see that? So make sure you're doing that. It's going to be very difficult to find your answer if you don't do that. So Casey, what do I know? What do I know?
That the two sides are
So what can you do with those two sides?
you can set equal.
Good. So 2x minus 5 is equal to 3x minus 9. So x equals 4. So Jn is x minus 2. Desiree, what do I do to find Jn then?
You plug in both
Jm is 2x minus 5. Ian, how do I find that one?
Add 5. Or, yeah.
Guys, pay attention, please. You're not even writing down what's on the board. Come on. What is x?
It's 4, so it'd be 2 times 4. Minus 3.
Okay. Guys, please make sure you're actually writing stuff down. This is not for me, it's for you. And then Mn is 3x minus 9. Emma, how would I find that one? Three times what? Okay. So are there questions there? I think we have one more example, but are there questions there before we get to that example? All right, last one. Triangle XYZ is an equilateral triangle. So I am going to draw XYZ. It's an equilateral triangle. I know all sides and all angles are congruent. And I know that each of the angles is 60 degrees. So a triangle with XY is 5x plus 1. XZ is 3x plus 3, and YZ is 6x. What could I do to figure this one out? Please do not tell me add up all the sides and set it equal to 180, because these are not angles. Devin.
Since all the sides are congruent, you could do 5x plus 1 equals 3x plus 3.
Yep, just choose any two of the sides, right, and set them equal to each other. So you chose 5x plus 1 equal to 3x plus 3. That's fine. You could have done 6x equals 3x plus 3. You could have done 6x equals 5x plus 1. It doesn't matter. You know, all three sides are the same. So xy is 5x plus 1. So to find that length, Hunter, what do I do? And then xz is 3x plus 3. So we just keep plugging in 1. And then xz equals 6x, so 6 times 1 is 6.
Why is the answer 6, 6, 6?
Don't know. I mean, each side length is a 6. I don't know why it happens to be that number.